Josh Denbo, consumer rights attorney. I've talked a lot about the important things to consumers, especially consumers with homes in distress and foreclosure worries and keeping a house worries and what to do and how to act and how to prepare. And most of my so-called competitors don't talk like that. What they do is they say, you need to modify your loan, or you need to go bankrupt. And I have some thoughts on bankruptcy, and I lay them out on my website, and you should read them. They're quick, short, to the point, but they're not the point of this particular video. Today's about modification. You go someplace else, it's going to be a how-to manual on how I am going to provide you a modification. It's not a question of the two most important points you need to make on deciding when to modify. Not whether, to when. And the first is when. When do you modify? Do you modify right away as soon as you're in trouble on the house? And the next question is, what happens if it doesn't work? And the first, and remember everybody, I'm talking about empowerment all the time. I'm talking about consumer rights. I'm talking about joy. I'm talking about the right to be happy and secure. Knowledge is power. Understand how the system works. Understand how to take advantage of it. Banks are doing it, but we can do it better together. And we can beat those banks most of the time. Let's get back to the modification. When to modify? Look, it depends. Let's take, for example, somebody, maybe it's you, who is, you're really struggling right now because the economy is in the toilet. But it's not going to be in the toilet forever. It's not going to be in the toilet forever, and your financial circumstances are really likely going to get back in the saddle. They're going to improve. If they improve, you can make your monthly payment. Maybe you can make your monthly payment now, barely. Here's where it comes in. If you modify right away, guess what happens the month after you modify? You make a housing payment. That might not be possible. It's really, really not good, close to really bad, to modify and then breach the modification agreement because you weren't ready for the modification. But lawyers and non-lawyers who provide the modification and get paid to do modifications are going to tell you, you need to modify, it'll solve all your problems. Not necessarily. You need to modify if it makes sense to modify. You need to modify in a way that makes you money and really puts the problems to bed. And if it doesn't, then you need to wait. And you need to prosecute your rights to push the bank back to buy you time. Now, if you look at the foreclosure guide and you look at the foreclosure infographic on my website, you're going to see how much time you actually have. And those were written and crafted before the pandemic, before the courts got shut down, before the sheriff's sales were canceled for God knows how long, before the evictions were halted for donkey's years here. So whatever time frame I have in those documents, which is a long time, it's even a lot longer now that we're dealing with COVID. So if you're in trouble and you run to someone who says modify right now, turn around and run. It's a much, much, much more complicated discussion that you need to have to understand what your rights are. And let's get to the second point. Let's say you're going to modify, you want to modify, you're talking to someone who is going to help you modify. And they don't talk about what happens if the bank makes a mistake and screws you out of your modification. And they don't talk about what happens if you're not accepted. Applying and not getting your modification has an effect on your legal rights to your next modification. If you're talking to someone who's not going to get involved in the foreclosure litigation, answer the complaint, push back, and fight the bank, you're talking to someone who just wants you to modify without any discussion about when, why, whether, how. These are not easy. They're not easy for most people. I've done this since 2008. I understand this system. I can give you the straight scoop on the phone. Just call me. Send me an email. Send me a text. I'll answer questions. Can I drill down to the very depth of your issue on a single telephone call? Sometimes. Usually not. Usually it involves an actual consultation. But there's good news about that because my consultations are free. All right? They're always free. You can talk to me. You can pick my brain. You can then take my information and run off to the next guy or next gal, attorney you want to work with. Most people don't. But you're certainly free to do it. People, this is a rough time for consumers. This is a rough time for a lot of people, me included. Okay? We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together, and we're going to come out the other side stronger than ever. But you have to be smart, and you have to be educated about the system, and you have to deal with people who are going to tell you honestly your upside and downside to what you perceive to be the easy solution. Modify, our lives are better then. I have a lot of people who come to me who modified at the wrong time and are in deep trouble. And I can help them a lot, but it would be so much easier if you all came to me first and just took my information. Do what you want with it, but at least find out what the score is and what your rights are. I promise to give you that. All right, everybody, be smart, be tough, educate yourself. We're going to get through this. It's going to be rough, but we are going to get through this together. I got your back.